Hello guys, this is a second video in a series of Win32 C++ programming. Last week we went over and we created just a real simple message box, and we started working with the message box. We made a recognition last week that the message box is something really interesting about the Windows APIs is that the methods do not have to return something, but if they do, we can get something. We also talked about the case statement, but one of the things that I kind of missed last week was if I grab what the message box, if we know what all the messages that the message box return, it returns ints that tie to constants. And so one of the constants means ID cancel. And so if I ran this real quick here, one of the things we could do or can do is I can, of course, this comes up with the warning and stuff like that. And if I hit cancel, it's going to return the message ID, because this is the actual box. I mean, this is the entire application, this little box right here. So, and you can see what we put in there. Then notice that I have the switch and the case statement down here for ID cancel but I can pick up ID cancel from here or from here, but the if statement is then catch it up from here. If not, it's just going to drop down to the switch, and this is never going to run. So if I hit cancel, it says you hit cancel. And now we're sitting right here, and then because I hit ID cancel, because this is not going to return anything. So our message box ID only got its reply back from this message. So I hit the little block there. So I wanted to point that out to you, that's really nice about how the Visual Studio API, you can just highlight it and it'll show you everywhere that variable or that string appears. And so again, we didn't get anything back from this. We just hit MBOK, and then we get a break. Now, the applause string would normally play there, but we commented out because of CL applause is not really there. Well, where did CL applause come from? That was a function that we could add to the source files, and I might do that next video. That will be over there. But tonight we want to talk about, like, okay, that's a message box, but that's not a Windows application. That's right, we're going to start building a Windows application without a wizard. I'm going to shrink me down here because the screen's the thing that's more important than me. And I want to talk about in the actual class document here, we actually have a for this class here, ooh, that's the wrong one. I opened up too many. It's over here, and there it is. There's actual several online resources for getting through this part, and I put them in the document. And the one we're going to look at is the one from Microsoft.com, and it says your first Windows program. And there's another link in there of creating a window. And so what I've done is I've updated and loaded this now. And one of the things that we're going to do is we are going to create a window class. Now, this looks really weird. I mean, we've all done stuff. I mean, here we declared an integer called message box ID. I could have easily declared the integer up here. Message box ID is just an object. The object type is integer. So when we get into here, we are going to create an object called WC. And what is WC going to be? It's going to be a window class. Okay, so so we're creating an empty window class, and then the window class, which we've created now an instance of window class. The name of the instance is WC, and we're going to set some of the attributes of the window. The LPFND is got a window process. It's going to have an instance, and it's going to have a class name. Now, once we get that window created, that window class created, then the window class does exist, but now we have to register it into memory. We can give it an address. So we're going to take the window class and we're going to register it. Why do we have to register it? Because in Win32, there's just a lot of things that are happening in memory. Because in console programming, it's linear code. You ask the user for their name, you ask them for their age, you ask them for, so they input their name, and then we validate their name, and like, okay, there's a name there. What's your age? And then we validate that they actually put in an integer there. So we are, so that's linear, but in Win32, there's all these objects. They can click a button, they can hit the cancel key and all that other stuff. So we're going to just create a really simple window class, and then we're going to register it up to memory. So all these events can happen. And once we create the window class, we're going to create, so we've created a window class, and we've registered it. Okay, so now it's accessible memory. It's an instantiated object. So we're saying we are going to use and create this window class. Now, once we create a window class, we can create a window of that class, okay, with the CreateWindowExW command. Now, there's some other things we can do, but we create it with a window handle. So this is just how they're doing it here. Just like here in this code, we said we're going to have an int message box, and so we're basically declaring an integer here called message box ID. I can declare the window handle separately if I want to, and then just say, so but here they're creating a HWND. This is just another object type, okay? HWND is a window handle. You'll see us have lots of window handles. And so we're going to create a window handle called HWND. So the actual object type is HWND, and we're going to give it an object name lowercase HWND. So we're going to create an H window handle, and we're going to do CreateWindowEx. We're going to say this is class name, learning to program in Windows. It's going to be an overlapping window, and we're going to let it land wherever we want. It's going to have an X and then a Y coordinate, and it's going to go by defaults. Notice this has no parent window. It has no menu yet. We can create those later. It has an instance called HInstance. And so we created a window class. We registered it. And now that's registered, we're creating a copy of it called HWND. In HWND, we can actually instantiate now. If HWND equals null, then return 0. That means if the HWND is blank, okay, it's null, then we know that some of the options we gave in here cause this window handle not to create, okay? So they're just trying to catch and see if the window handle did create or not. All right, so then we're going to show the window, simply show the window. And then we're going to register, this is what all the code looks like together. So I want to show you something here as we go forward. This is last week's little exercise, winvid1.cpp. And I'm going to go over to source files, and you can right click here and say add new item. And I'm going to call this file here. So within the same project, we're going to say class win02. So now we're going to create a blank class. Now, I have some code over here that's out in the resource directory that I'm just going to cut and paste into here because I've done some stuff to it. And this is what we're going to use. So, now, the deal with this is now, yeah, that's when that's okay. So this is the one we did last week, and this is class win02.cpp. Okay. In C++ programming, we can only have, when we're doing win32, we can only have one win main. Okay? So we have one here, and we have one here. But we want to use this win main. When we use win main, that just means we're using some advanced features or some newer features in our previous example did. So we just kind of upgraded to this code, and the example was out there. So what we do here is with winvid1, we want it there just for reference, but we don't want to create a new project every time we make a change to the code. So I'm just going to do Control A, and I'm going to come up here, and I'm just going to comment out the old code, and then the old code will be there just simply for reference. So if I want to add a message box, I can. So let's walk over this one more time. We're basically taking the code from Microsoft.com. We're going to do but we're adding this, and I'll explain this a little bit, but we're creating a prototype procedure called callback window process. And I'll explain that here in a little bit. But we're going to do, this procedure does exist down here, and this is just it's going to accept a window handle, HWND, which this is the window handle that we're going to create down here, HWND. It's going to have a message, and we'll talk about the message formatting here a little bit more as we work through this, but in an L param. So we'll get into all this in a little bit. But first we're going to talk about we created wmain, okay? So now this is, we're going to we have a wchar_t. Now what's wchar_t? This is again another object type that is a universal character type, and you can see we're using L today. So we're converting our English string sample window class, and we're converting it into a wchar_t called class name, okay, of unknown size. And wchar_ts have a real specific size, but we're just sample windows class. We're putting that in here, and you'll see us use this. So we have a class name, and we're going to walk through this, and I just want to show you what we're doing here. So we have a class called WC. We use the H instance, which is, notice that when we do the Win API, we say what instance this Win API procedure is, but also we do the H window handle when we call the callback. Now all we're going to do is we're going to create the window, okay? If the window doesn't create, if my code isn't right, which it is because I've cut and pasted it, we're going to take this default window called Learn to Program in Windows from Microsoft, and we're going to basically return to 0. We're going to show the window, and then we're going to get a message. Okay, now we're going to get into messaging, because once we get a window there, we're going to talk about messages, and that's going to be the second part of this exercise, and I'll show you what this looks like here in a minute. So we're going to grab a message, we're going to translate a message, and we're going to dispatch a message. So we're going to sit there and draw a box. Well, in Win32 programming, what you draw a box, and then you wait until we get a message. What is getting a message entail? The user clicked on something on the window. Okay, so we get a message and we translate the message. When we dispatch the message from here, it runs result callback window process for that window and that message. You see we're passing in the message. The actual message format, which we'll show you in a little bit, actually has all three of these subcomponents inside the message format. So the message format, which we declared a message, MSG right here, when we pass it in, it has the window handle, the message, the W param and the L param, and you're like, on holy smokes, what are you talking about? Well, right now we know we're window handle. We're just looking at uMessage. Okay, this is the part, so basically we could listen in this window right here in this message group for messages from multiple windows. We could spawn multiple of these HWND. We could have an HWND1, HWND2, and all these messages coming in. And then we have, what happened in the window? Okay, in the first message, the first thing every user can do is WM destroy. What's WM destroy? That's this little X. That's WM destroy. Destroy the window. We're going to post a message and we're going to quit. Okay, so that has to be there. Otherwise, the little X on the default window doesn't. And we're going to do some paint. And we're going to fill the inside with some brush color and return 0. And so all this is going to do is give us a window. And if they do anything else, we're going to return the default window process back in. So there's some default window processing that we're going to catch. All these two constructs right here are required. Okay? And so when I run this, of course we've commented this out, our one WIN mains here, and then we hit compile and it's just going to run. Okay, and we are going to get our first blank window with the title, our class window. Okay, so, learn to program in Windows in an X. And if we hover over the little icon down here, learn to program in Windows is there, and X. So there's destroy, and we can size it. This is standard window processing here, so I can grab the edge of the window and I can size it. This is WM default processing. So when I look here and I grab the top of the window and I just drag it around, you're like going, what's going on here? This is a default Windows process of like saying, oh, when I go over the edge of the window, I do that. When I want to maximize the window, I do that. When I want to come back to its size, or if I want to minimize it, all those things falls under default window processing. We did not write any code for that. You with me? Okay, so that's that. So now we want to get into putting something on the window. Okay, so the best way to do this that I have seen is let's just simply, and this is in our other document here, we basically took the foundation of how to create the window, but there's some other things other events that happen. There's another event called WM create. okay, and a WM destroy. So we've looked at WM destroy, and we're going to look at WM command, but I want to look at WM create. Okay, so in WM create, we did the WM destroy, but we're going to look at some WM create syntax. Of course, there's the create window syntax. It has the X and Y and the length and the width and all that stuff. And so we're going to come in and we're going to create a procedure called add controls. Okay, so I'm just going to go in here. Up before we start our program, we're going to call it add controls. Okay, so I'm going to show you this. Void add controls. Okay, and no parameters. So it's just there as a sub procedure called add controls. So we're going to put all the window controls that we have in one place. Okay, so we're going to go back here. The prototype, I throw all my prototypes on the top, and then we go down at the very bottom, and we're going to add this as an actual procedure. Okay, and we'll take out the semicolon, and we'll add this. And so that you guys don't have to sit there and watch me type, I'm going to go ahead and add two controls. Okay, the first control I'm going to add is a static control. Okay, so here's a static control. I'm going to just enter, this is a static window. I can't do anything with it. So within the window at 150, I'm going to put a label that's 150 wide. X is this way, it's horizontal, and 20 high. And I'm going to do it in the parent window is HWND. So the big white window that we made with nothing on it, that was HWND. So we could actually do, you know, we can actually do this real quick. Right? Now, what tells us to paint the window? Well, one of the events that we are dependent on is WM create. Okay, WM create there's only one thing that can make WM create fire. Okay, so we're going to go in our case statement here, and if we're going to, you know, I'm a big cut and paster, so I'm going to take the WM destroy code, and I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to say enter, and I'm going to go Control V, and I'm going to go WM create because, okay, so that's WM create, and instead of doing anything other than that, I'm going to say add controls. And there it is. Controls. Add controls. I'm going to pick that one and no parameters. And so on WM create, it's going to execute add controls and then quit. And it's going to do it for HWND. And that's the parent window, HWND. And so why does it underline it there? Because it doesn't know what HWND is, because see, I created that in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to just say HWND is created, and then we're going to have a whole list of procedures, but we're also going to have a whole list of window controls. Okay, so we're going to have, so I'm declaring a window handle, and I'm creating a new procedure called add controls. And so what I did is, before we were creating window handle right here, and a window handle was local to WinMain. Okay, so when I came down here and I wanted to display this hello world on top of HWND, wanting HWND to be our parent window, this procedure here did not know what it was, and so all we did was move the definition of the window handle up here into the global area to where all functions can see it. And you can see me use and abuse that a lot, but we're just here to learn some stuff. There's probably some better ways to do it, but let's see what happens. Let's see if we get hello world on our object. And sure enough, there should be a hello world. Well, this is where we get to learn how to debug, because guess what? It's not there. All right, so something didn't work, so we ran add controls with no parameters, and it did it for HWND in this static field here. It should have been at 100,50, and so we should have gone over here to add controls. So let me just go look at something over here, just in case I need to peek and see what happened. So WM create, WM key down, WM button, so WM command, WM key down. Okay. Now, I made that a global parameter. Okay, cool. Let's see if that works. Now that should have found it down here, but this is, yeah. The other example we used, we actually put the window handle in there, so show window HWND, and we actually passed in a parameter to add controls. So this is HWND. Okay. And then this comes up here. Let me verify that we did it that way. And that was add controls HWND. So that's what we're passing in. Shouldn't have to do that. Let's just take a look. Okay, still nothing there. I might have to. Okay, let's just see. So, come down here. We draw our window. WM create hits. We do add hand controls. We pass in the window handle, which we really shouldn't have to do because I moved it up. And then when I run add controls, which is right down here, I'm just checking something out. Add controls, there it is. And we do HWND. And we're going to call it HWND. Yeah. Hello world. There you go. All right, so the window handle has to be passed in, and we just created a new window handle, and so there's your first hello world. Sorry about that little pause, but you know, hopefully we can learn something about that. So that's our HWND2. We just passed that in. We could call that anything within here, but we'll just call it HWND2 from in here. Now, let's go back and look at our original document. We learned what WM create is. We've learned what the create window command is. but we can create different window types. And there are CreateWindowExW is like this huge library. You can create all kinds of windows, drop down boxes, all kinds of different stuff. But we're going to try and edit here. So we're going to create a window that's going to be a visible child with a border, and we're going to throw this on here. And so we're going to just add this in here. And I'm not going to get caught with this again. But then I'm going to come in here and make it HWND2. And now, but if I'm going to do editing with a window handle, every window, see here I created a window, but since it was static, I don't really have to do anything with it, okay? But this one, I want to create a window handle called HName, because I want to be able, if once they enter in data into their name, we're going to change this to what is your name. So we're going to put this back to what is your name, okay? And with what is your name, I have to come up here and create a window handle that will handle this. So I have to come all the way up here to the top. And I'm going to create another window handle because now we have a window on top of a window. Okay, we use the same so here's the CreateWindowEx that we created the parent window with. Learn to program in Windows, we give it a title, window text, everything else like that, with a class name and everything. We created the parent window there. That's where we created our first parent window. And now we're creating another window directly on top of it. It used to say hello world, but now it's going to say what is your name, and let's put a little question mark there. Okay, and then we're going to ask them to enter into an edit field what their actual name is. Let's see what this looks like. All right, and so they have a field. It's an edit field. They can type in here. Okay. So I can put Mr. Tim, but we can't do anything with it yet. So the purpose of this week's exercise is really that you're able to create a window, okay, and that you're actually able to start to put objects on it. Now next week we're going to be looking at some other events and buttons that we can put on there to actually help you begin to manipulate. We're going to look at some other message types in the next lesson so you can manipulate more of what's going on with the window with these different messages. So we'll get through that, but that was the objective of this week, this exercise this week. We were able to create a base window. We were able to add some objects to it. You can play around with some of the window objects, and also right here you can actually do a Google on CreateWindowExW, and you can find out all these different window styles that you can throw on here, and also different window classes. And you can just start to begin to play with different parameters, different sizes, defaults and non-defaults. And so this is really the beginning of a window here, and then next week we will play with this, or in the next lesson we will actually begin to gather this data, validate this data, and process this data. But we just want to get you a window created and get this moving forward. So that's this lesson. Hope that helps. Thanks.